As a member of the seasonal staff at our historic sites, museums, and art galleries, you will of course be surrounded by historical objects, furniture, and architecture. You are quite literally surrounded by history. This is very important, as the preservation and protection of these objects is one of our site's main responsibilities. In this module, we will discuss museum ethics, handling artifacts, and dealing with donations.
Museums, historic sites, and art galleries contribute a great amount to society. The International Committee of Museums has produced a code of ethics that, if followed, allow a museum to truly rise to be a foundational part of its community. Museums preserve, interpret, and promote the natural and cultural inheritance of humanity. Museums that maintain collections hold them in trust for the benefit of society and its development. This means not only displaying history for the public interest, but preserving the material for generations to enjoy. Museums hold primary evidence for establishing and furthering knowledge. Museums provide opportunities for the appreciation, understanding, and promotion of natural and cultural heritage. Museums work in close collaboration with the communities from which their collections originate, as well as those they serve. Museums operate in a legal manner, and they operate in a professional manner. This is of course not solely the seasonal staff's job, but as an integral part of the museum, you are instrumental in maintaining this code. A museum's collection is of course very fragile for a number of reasons. It is extremely important for seasonal staff to be aware of factors that can potentially damage artifacts. Here are some agents of deterioration. Human error. This is the most controllable factor. Damage is often accidentally applied when improperly cleaning, carrying, or storing objects. Light. Temperature and humidity. Particulate accumulation such as dust or sawdust. Water damage including flooding, leaks, and spills. Insects and pests. And mold. Mold can cause great deals of damage and is very difficult to manage. If you notice mold growing on an artifact, tell a supervisor immediately. Other than human error, managing these factors are often out of the hands of seasonal and frontline staff. However, the ability to notice when something is out of place and could lead to damage is invaluable. The objects in a museum or gallery's collection are of course not everyday objects. If you're given access to these items, you are accepting a huge responsibility, as the preservation of these objects is the chief responsibility of a museum. When going to handle the collection, we have to remember, they are often fragile due to age or past usage. They are sometimes one of the few surviving examples and irreplaceable if damaged or broken. They need to be preserved for as many years as possible. And there should never be food or drink near objects in the collection. When moving objects, act as if every object is your grandmother's best china. The amount of time you spend with the collection, as well as the type of artifacts you'll encounter, will vary depending on the site and your specific job role. However, there are some general rules to remember for moving these precious items. Think and plan beforehand. Ensure you're wearing proper clothing and shoes. Remove any large jewelry that could scratch, bash, or become entangled with an object. Check your path. This includes making sure there is a clear path to your destination, enough space to place the object, and enough space through doors and around corners. Practice safety. Take your time and don't rush. Ask another person to help if you need it. Be aware of any hazardous materials you may come in contact with. Different materials have very different procedures for handling. Your supervisor should inform you of the proper methods they use on site. For smaller objects, do not carry multiple items or stack them, especially if they are a variety of weights. Use a carrying container and proper materials for small and fragile items. Even if something is lightweight, use both hands. for large objects. Use blankets or pads to protect larger objects when moving them, and remove any dangling or loose parts. Simply practice common sense and always be thinking when around an organization's collection. These objects are very important, both to the organization and to the surrounding community that enjoys them. If you have or have seen others handle objects like this before, you often notice they are wearing gloves. This is a very important protective measure. Wearing gloves is a protective measure not only for the artifacts, but for you as well. We don't want to damage or contaminate the objects, but we also don't want that to happen to us. Oils from our hands can react aggressively with some materials, causing irreversible damage. On the other hand, period objects may have been produced with lead, arsenic, or many other dangerous chemicals you don't want to come in contact with. Discuss with your supervisor which types of gloves are the best for different jobs and situations. Before moving on to donations, let's do some simple practice. Choose an artifact and transport it to another room, putting the skills we have just covered into practice. Many museums are lucky enough to have access to a supportive community that aids in the collection's growth. Most often, donation processing is handled by supervisors and experienced staff. As a seasonal employee, it is always a good idea to refer a community member who wishes to donate items to the curator or supervisor on site. The process of accepting and documenting a donated object varies from site to site. Commonly, the organization will have forms to provide to the donor. Always collect as much information about the object and its previous owner as possible. Museums have a set criteria for the types of artifacts they accept, and will not accept any old objects that one simply does not wish to throw out. It will ultimately be the curator or curator's assistant who makes this decision. It is possible that you may be faced with an insistent customer who has brought a donation to a member site and refuses to leave with the object, even if a supervisor is not there to accept it. In these rare circumstances, record as much information as you can. Sites will often provide you with a temporary receipt form that you can fill out in this situation.
Be it a museum, historic site, or art gallery, your site's collection is of paramount importance. If you are given the responsibility to handle these objects, do not take it lightly. Not only are you helping to preserve these objects for the future generations, but you are given the opportunity to hold history in your hands. I hope you have learned a lot in this training module. Please take some time now to answer the questions in your workbook, and thank you for watching.